The event was held from the 19th of May to the 8th of June, 1959, a round-robin event. And as you can see there, Bobby Fischer was in a close third place behind Michael Tal with 11.5 points and Svetozar Gligoric with 11. Bobby and Palkeres tying for the third position with 10.5 points each. The first game that we will show is against Edgar Walther, and Walther was from Switzerland. He was born on Christmas Eve 1930, passed away October 23rd, 2013 at the age of 82. He was a national master here, but eventually did become a FIDE master. He was an international correspondence master, and he was a 3-time Swiss Confederation champion, which is not the same apparently as the Swiss Chess Championship. He won the Swiss Confederation Championship in 49, 57, and 71. And I gather it's probably like the U.S. Open compared to the U.S. Championship. He did qualify first for the Swiss Chess Championship in 1965, but then lost the match to Marcel Marcus. He was also the top finisher in the 1965 Swiss Cup. Edgar Walther, and he starts with e4, and of course Bobby with the Sicilian defense, c5. Knight f3, pawn d6, pawn d4, pawn takes the pawn, knight takes the pawn. As you all know, this is the open Sicilian. Knight f6, knight c3, and everybody knows what's coming. a6. Miguel Najdorf's variation, bishop g5, pawn e6, pawn f4, bishop e7 breaks the pin, queen f3, queen's knight d7, queenside castles, queen c7 is your main line, Najdorf. Bishop d3, pawn b5. And here Walther departs from the opening book and plays bishop takes knight. Before continuing with the actual game, let me show you the book moves, starting with king's rook to e1, bishop to b7, putting some heat on that queen, which immediately moves to g3, pawn b4 hits the knight comes to d5. Wow! E takes d5, e takes d5, discovering a pin on this bishop. And so the way to break the pin is to sidestep to the d8 square. This is the most common reply. We're no longer in book. And the annotator said, great, knight c6 check is usually played here. And after bishop takes knight and pawn takes the bishop, this knight comes to c5. So white has given up a knight, or a piece, if you will, but he's got some compensation here. Look at the eval bar. This is dead center. Let's go back. In the game, Walther was not interested in that line, perhaps not bold enough to try the sacrifice, and so he just played bishop takes the knight on f6 here. Bobby with knight takes the bishop, and now the king's rook to e1. But now the annotator says, no, that's not the good idea. Here you should play the thematic g5, and these pawns get rolling on the king's side. Still, I don't know that rook h e1 is all that bad. The eval bar barely moves, so it's hard to give that a full question mark in my mind. But we have seen Ficklebot be persnickety in times past. Here, bishop b7, and again, let me say, I see no reason to mark this move as inaccurate. It's a very thematic idea, developing the bishop, lining up with the queen. Bot is saying you should have played b4. Well, b4 will be there on the next turn, I'm sure. Well, Edgar played king b1, getting a question mark. He says, prevent b4 by playing a3. And I would think here g4 is still also a move. This is very thematic. Play g4. Oh, I'm marked inaccurate from the annotator. My idea is to keep these pawns marching forward. Let's go back. King b1 is the move chosen by Edgar Walther. And now Bobby, rook c8. And that's a thematic move. Yes, b4 deserves consideration. It's going to send that knight to the e2 square. And I guess you could castle castle. Let's see what we get here. That was a star. This is going to be a star, I'm sure. A thumbs up. I'm not sure why you would play G6 and weaken this square. Oh, to clamp down on this. Yeah. You could even play that instead of B4. Play G6 here and play that right away. Oh, guess I'm inaccurate again. All right, well, rook C8 by Bobby Fischer. And now G4. The knight coming to D7. B4 is marked again, and it's always going to be a move in these situations. Play B4 first, and after the knight moves to E2, then you can play knight D7 at that juncture, and you're good to go. But knight D7 right away from Bobby Fischer. And now G5, no surprise there. Knight B6. Anybody want to bet that B4 will be recommended? Oh, it recommends castle. Oh, I would have... Okay, castling, of course, but it says that's a mistake. I don't know. Oh, it changed its mind and gave me a star. It's going to say, how could that be a mistake? You can castle afterward. And we get a thumbs up on castling. I guess you could castle right away and then play B4 afterward. All right, knight B6 was played. And now F5. It's looking to open up the position on the king's side. Bobby with E5 hitting the knight. Marked inaccurate. The bot wanting the knight to come to A4. Not sure I quite understand that move. You know, it was recommending G6 before. I wonder if you could play G6 here. Let's find out. I get a check mark. E5 was the choice by Fischer, lighting up the knight on D4. That attack is ignored, and a counter-attack is unleashed. Pawn to F6, a great move, and the eval bar is favoring the Swiss champion. Not the current Swiss champion, by the way. The current Swiss champion at that time would have been Keller. F6, hitting our bishop. G takes F6. Don't take the knight. Do not play. Pawn takes the knight. Ooh, the eval bar lunging. And the point here is, yes, you're hitting the white knight, but he's going to come to D5 and hit your queen, and your bishop is still en prise. So after you move your queen, knight takes the bishop, right? You could take with the pawn, I suppose. Nope, guess not. But knight takes the bishop is the best. All right, G takes F6 was Bobby's choice. G takes F6, bishop F8. And again, we're not going to take the knight. We're not going to take the knight because knight D5 is always available. Here you could play queen C5, but probably won't do you any good. If knight takes knight here, pawn takes knight, bishop takes pawn, queen can come to F6, and he's Jim Dandy. Let's go back. So bishop F8 was played by Bobby Fischer, who's gotten himself into some trouble in this first round. After bishop F8, now knight D5 is played, and we have knight takes the knight. Queen D8? Yeah, I don't know if that's any better. If you play queen D8, don't I have knight to E6? That's funny. It recommended on this, it recommends queen D8. See that green arrow? But when I play queen D8, look at the eval bar. Boom. And I'm assuming the eval bar drops there because I'm going to play the knight to E6 here. And go ahead. Oh, double exclam. It tells me I'm brilliant. And the point is this. You take this, you've opened the H5 E8 diagonal for queen H5, check, and then the king has to move where? D7. Oh my goodness. And so queen F7 is check. I have to block with my bishop, and this is horrific for black. You can kiss this game goodbye. That hits my queen. I have to play to E8. It's the only square where I'm not losing my queen immediately, but I'm losing my queen immediately. Oh, Ouchosaurus Rex. King C6. Right on King C6. No, King C6 is just losing. I'll take with check. I will under-promote. Boom. I will under-promote and make you take that right there. And then I've got knight B4 check. The king's forced out into the open, and we're going to bring this king on a king walk. Let's go queen F2 check. King must take the knight, and now we'll play queen takes this knight, cutting the king off. Look at those royal squares all under our control, and there's literally no defense here against the invariable checkmate. No, I can't do that, but I've got this coming. This is coming wrong. Hold on. I'll figure it out. First of all, what does black play here? Let's figure out what black can even play. Doesn't really have any moves. He literally has no moves. It doesn't do any good to try to give away your bishop because I'm playing a3 anyhow, right? And then b3. Yeah, that's the move right there. That's going to do it. Yeah. All right. Anywho, let's go all the way back. I did get a double exclam right there, ladles and jelly spoons. Knight d5, knight takes knight, gets inaccurate, but the eval bar says it was right. The annotator says it was wrong, but we can see here the annotator has erred, which is not uncommon for the annotator. So pawn takes the knight, king d8. I mean, I don't know if you have to play king d8 here. Maybe queen c5 can keep the fight alive. I get a check mark. I guess because knight c6 here, right? And bishop takes, knight, pawn takes, queen takes. Yeah, I guess that doesn't really work because bishop e4 is going to be killer here. There are no good moves for black. He tried king d8, knight c6, check, of course. Yeah, we end up with the same thing, except the king shifted. Bishop takes, pawn takes, queen takes, and he doesn't trade queens. He plays the bishop e4, as I showed in the previous line. Now here, queen b6 was played. I preferred queen c5, as does the bot, and the point is, you need to get out of the bishop's line of fire, but you might as well keep this attack on the c-file live. And if he shifts his bishop to hit your rook, you can just, oh yeah, it's an inaccuracy. I'm just showing that you can then just lift your rook up and try to keep fighting. But these pieces are out of play, aren't they? Coming back, queen b6 was tried, queen h5, king c7, wow, bishop f5, rook d8, queen takes the pawn, check, king b8, queen e6, queen c7, rook e3, bishop h6, rook c3, queen b7. Counterattack suggested by the bot. Now that's okay. Hoping that he'll take your queen. Right, he hopes for this, so you can get this. And I've got that, you can take that, but I'm equalizing. So instead, the queen would want to come here, and that would keep the advantage. But the point is, it'd be worth a try. It'd be worth a try. You'd never know if he'd take your queen or not. You have nothing to lose to try it. Queen b7 was Bobby's choice here, and that eval bar has plummeted. f7, bishop g7, bishop g5 called for. It's really hard to decide what to play here. I mean, you could try to get cute because of the back rank weakness. Offer him your bishop, right? He can't take it or he's mated, right? Hello! So he wouldn't be able to take it, but just play the rook over and you're fine. And I've got to blockade that pawn, and then he's coming down to g8, and this party's over. But that would be a cute, cheeky move. Pull it on your beginning opponents. How many people would just take the free bishop? Bishop g7 from Bobby Fischer. And now rook cd3. Bishop f8. Queen takes the e-man. That's quite a move. That was quite a bold move right there. Pawn takes the queen. Rook takes the rook, check. And the point is, after I move my king to a7, I'm going to get pinned. So rook on d1 to d7. He ignores it. h5. Rook takes queen. King takes rook. c3. King c7. Rook a8. Trying to keep this pressure here because he doesn't mind trading off that rook and then promoting his pawn. So once again, these two pieces are both tied down. King d6, but then he let him go. He grabbed the pawn because I guess he's saying, well, I'm going to get tempo. King e7, rook e6 check. King takes the pawn. There goes that passed pawn. Suddenly, even though the eval bar is favoring white, we got opposite colored bishops. And where white had it in his pocket, looks like he has holes in his pocket, doesn't it? Rook takes the e-man. Pawn b4. C takes b4. Bishop takes b4. h3. King f6. Forking the two pieces. Rook b5. Bishop d6. Bishop e4. Rook e8. Rook f5 check. King king g7, bishop f3, rook e1 check, king c2, rook f1, looking for opposite colored bishop ending, rook d5. Walther would prefer rook against rook ending, rightfully so. Rook f2 check, rook d2, and rook takes the rook. Okay, that's marked inaccurate. I do not believe this. The bot says it's better to go rook against rook. Oh, because you're getting a pawn? I see. That leaves him with a one pawn advantage, but you have a passed pawn that he has to worry about, and that should still be drawable, I guess. But for those of us who are human, including Bobby Fischer, he understands that this opposite colored bishop ending, these pawns can be blockaded, and that will be a draw. So I agree with Bobby. I disagree with Ficklebot. I don't care what the eval bar says. Human beings, we humans, okay, the bot could probably win this, but we humans, this opposite colored bishop, the idea is blockade these pawns and just take the draw. So king takes the rook, opposite colored bishop endgame, h4 getting on the, speaking of opposite colors, get on the dark square and off the light square. King d3, king f6, king c4, king e7, king b5. Oh, yeah, get that pass pawn rolling. Apparently b4 is the decisive move. And we've said this before, passed pawns are meant to be pushed. King b5, trying to get out in front of his pawns. It's the rule of king-pawn endgames, isn't it? Get your king out front, opposition, outflank. Bobby with king d7, also not preferred by the bot. So play here so you can play here, I gather. And now if b4, I'll play bishop d2 and get right there. Ah, interesting. Bishop e2, now king d6. That's very interesting. All right, let's go back. King d7 was played, eval bar plummeting again, and here a4. Pass pawns are meant to be pushed, but look at the eval bar and look at the big red X. This is really confusing to guys like us. After all, the promotion square is a white square. Why wouldn't you push the A man? What's the real difference between b4? Somebody better than I has to explain this. I don't understand why b4 is decisive where a4 is not. I am a touch confused here. Any endgame experts out there that can tell us what's so great about b4 compared to a4 is the natural move, isn't it? The a4 is the most natural move. Let's see here. On b4, I mean, I'm going to bring my king over, right? Am I not just going to bring my king over? I am. I guess, okay, he comes here. I guess the point is, yeah, my bishop controls these, my king controls these, so my pawn can get right down here. But this was a big red X. Yeah, I think, it's hard to know. I don't really understand this endgame. Is it because I have time to move my, maybe it's because I can buy a move here? Maybe it's because I can buy a move and move to one of these squares with my bishop, and then get up to this diagonal. Perhaps that's the idea. Well, a4 was played, and let's see if Bobby plays his bishop to any of these squares, and the answer is no. He plays king c7 here. But the bot says, yeah, go and play this, and then after, well, I would still play b4 here if I'm white, but the thing is this, right, I see, and my king is tied to this pawn, but why can't I just push that pawn? Pray tell. Well, king c7. I guess the point is I'm getting here before his pawn is. That is the point. My king will stop his pawn. If you try to get out of the way and push this one, I'll just stay. Let me think here. I don't move here till he moves his pawn, right? Is that correct? So I just keep my bishop on this diagonal, either bishop d2 or bishop e1. They're probably equal. Let's look at both star or thumbs up. Oh, you can still play here? Wow. Wow, I would not have guessed that king d6 would have been a choice. And then after b5, now I play, oh, you know what? I got it. Then I blockade him here. Now I've got it. Yep. That's the move. And note that the promotion square for this pawn is a dark square. So I give up my bishop for 2 pawns and then beeline it for the corner. Yep, got it. Okay, that explains it. Now we got it figured out. So that is why b4 was better than a4. Right now, king b8, a5, king a7, and that is going to be a draw. King c4, bishop g3, pawn b5, bishop f2, same theory, bishop e2, bishop e3, just stay on the diagonal, king b3, bishop d2, pawn b6 check, king b7. White should have been winning, but his chances have gone out the window. King a4. Okay, all right, he still has ideas. King b5 and then push, right? But king c6 keeps the king from coming there. Bishop b5 check. I would assume bishop f3 would still work here, wouldn't it? As far as holding, I mean, I don't see any real difference. It gets an inaccuracy. You can't come here and you can't come here, right? Because I have enough time to get my bishop here to cover. Okay, yep, I got it. And if a6, then I'm golden. That's why bishop f3 is not as good as the move that he tried. So king c5, and here they agreed to a draw. He can't make progress. He moves his bishop somewhere, e8, a6, d7, wherever. I just keep dancing around. My king holds everything down. You can't move this pawn without losing that pawn. And if you ever move the b pawn, then my bishop gets to cover here, blockading. My point is that he can never ever, so let's say he pushes the pawn, I play bishop f4, and he can never push this pawn without letting me in here. So he can never get his king down here to help. My king keeps his king contained. Very interesting game. Bobby got let off the hook there. He was in big trouble for quite a ways, and just his opponent couldn't get her done. He got too cute, and then things got ugly.